So I just started recording. All right, here goes nothing. So, hi guys, Tutor Sue here, and welcome to my channel. So, my channel will be dealing with harmless contents to pass the time. I'll try to talk about various topics that might or might not be interesting to you, but I'll try to make them entertaining as much as possible for you to enjoy. If you're looking for contents to play on the background while you try to study, work, drive, or maybe even sleep, this channel is just for you. For my first video, I'm gonna walk you through the enchanting world of Korean folk tales. Not only are they interesting, but also quite educational, in which you'll be able to delve into the heart of Korean culture. Now, bear in mind, I'll be talking about these Korean tales off the top of my head. Of course, I've got some visual aid here through PowerPoints, but I've just listed the character names and the backgrounds, so I definitely will get some details wrong here and there, so keep that in mind. Or they could just be different versions of the same story, like many other folk tales. So, yeah. So I'm going to summarize these folk tales in a nutshell for you to enjoy. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be warped to worlds where animals talk with wisdom and heroes rise against adversity. Let's go. My coffee is right here. Ain't it cute? Love it. Okay, so here goes. In this first slide, as you can see, Korean folk tales in a nutshell by Tutor Sue. That would be my YouTube name, I guess. Now, all images, right, are generated via AI through Canva, and the PowerPoint design ideas are from the YouTube channel Luis Urcia. I don't know how to read that, but big thanks to this dude. He makes awesome videos on how to make PowerPoints look amazing, but mine isn't somehow. I'll try to learn. Anyways, keep in mind that the images, I try to find images that are free to use, royalty free, but I couldn't find any royalty free images relating to Korean folk tales. So, and I had to ask the AI to make these images for me. These images that the AI created for me resemble nothing close to the common illustrations of these Korean folk tales. They don't look conventional at all. So they're gonna be cheesy. It's gonna be funny in some sense. Anyways, so here, as you can see, we're gonna look at Korean folk tales with origins in Korean mythology. I think it's always fun to know about various mythologies, right? Myths. Okay, so, see, the images are generated by AI. They're nothing close to the common illustrations of these tales. So the first one is called 해와 달이 된 오누이, which translates to the brother and sister that became the sun and the moon. I forgot the moon. Let me just put that up. There we go. Looks much better. Okay, the brother and the sister that became the sun and the moon. Okay, so this one, the setting, it starts at an old house deep in the mountains. The characters would be their single mom, siblings, and tiger. So here's the summary. A long, long time ago, in an old house deep in the mountains, lived a family. There was a single mom and her her son and daughter. So they were a harmonious family, so to speak. They lived quite well. They're not rich, but they were happy. They were a happy family. And the single mom was responsible for the livelihood of this household. She would make money by selling rice cakes in a market that was far, far away from their home. It took a lot of mountain passes to reach that market. Oh, bear in mind that rice cake will appear frequently in Korean folk tales. Rice cake is like the bread of the Bible. Whenever the book, the story needs a food, it will say rice cake. So if you hear the word rice cake, you can know that it means meal. Anyways, so the single mom had to sell rice cake to feed the family, and it took many mountain passes to reach. One day, after the market closed, she was going back home. She took the leftover rice cakes and she headed home. She was entering the first mountain pass and she encounters a tiger. Now, this tiger says, "Give me a rice cake and I won't eat you." Oh, before that, let me mention something. So the tiger is like the antichrist of Korean folk tales, so to speak, like Ganon from The Legend of Zelda, Omega Flowey from Undertale, or Virgil from Devil May Cry 3. He's like the final boss of many Korean folk tales. So whenever a tiger appears, it's mostly, not all the time, but mostly the evil that needs to be overcome. He's not going to be so cunning, but he's going to be strong and act evil, so to speak. So back to the story. So at the first mountain pass, this tiger asks the mom to give him some rice cake and that he won't eat her. And the mom was reluctant but threw him a rice cake. And the tiger seemed to go away. Now, the mother crossed the second mountain pass, and the same tiger, appeared again. The tiger threatened her with the same words: "Give me a rice cake and I won't eat you." And the mother threw him another rice cake. And this happened 3 times, 4 times, depending on which version you read. It happens several times. Now, the mom ran out of rice cake. So the tiger decided to eat her. So she is now in the tiger's belly. Sad. But the tiger was not satiated. He wasn't satiated though. So he wanted to eat the siblings as well. Somehow he knew that the mother had a son and a daughter. I don't really recall how he knew that, but so he disguises himself as the mother by wearing her clothes. So I guess he ate her after tearing up her clothes. I'm not sure. Anyways, he disguised himself as the mother, so he went to their house. Now the sister heard the tiger's footsteps and she thought it was their mom. So she tried to open the door, but the brother sensed something was weird. He felt something was off. I guess the footsteps sounded a bit different. Anyways, the tiger knocked on the door, and the brother told the sister not to open it, and the brother told the being outside, supposedly their mother, to prove herself, right? So I think the brother here said, "If you are our mother..." No, I think the brother told the thing outside to speak up. And the tiger's voice was nothing like their mother's. So the brother was like, "You don't sound like our mom," obviously. So the tiger's excuse was that his voice was all hoarse from selling rice cake at the market. He had to shout, "Buy some rice cake, buy some rice cake." That's why his voice was gone. That was his excuse. So the brother this time says, "All right, if you are really our mother, prove yourself by showing your hand." So this time, the tiger punches the door, and in the old days, like ancient Korea, the doors, they're made of wood and paper material, so you can easily tear the paper thingy. So the tiger pokes his hand through the paper, through the door, essentially. And of course, the brother sees the hand and it's too rough. It doesn't resemble their mom's hand, right? So brother's like, this is not my mom's hand. And the tiger, his excuse here was that I've been working really hard today. That's why my hand's all rough. So the brother is like, still suspicious. He looks through the door. There's a hole in the door now, right? And he sees that there's a tiger outside. So the brother and sister sneak through the back door of the house and they climb up a tree. Now the tiger couldn't wait any longer, so he smashes through the door and he couldn't find the siblings. So he went out of the house, he circled around the house trying to find the siblings, but he couldn't find them anywhere. Just then, there was a well, I think, from the version that I read or heard. There was a well, and he saw the reflection of the siblings from that well, from the waters. So the tiger looked up to the tree, and the siblings were there. So the tiger politely and gently asked the siblings, hey guys, how did you get up the tree? So the brother was like, well, it's easy. If you put on sesame oil on your hands and feet, you can climb this tree easily. So the tiger went back to the kitchen of the house, applied sesame oil to his feet, all four of them, and he tried to climb up the tree. Of course, he failed, right? And it was a funny sight. He kept slipping, right? Shouting. So the younger sister began to laugh, and she was like, ha ha ha, you idiot, you fool. If you use an axe right next to you, you can climb this tree easily. Right. The sister just gave him the biggest clue, how to climb up a tree. But yeah. So the sister closed her mouth like this, but it was too late. Now the tiger could climb the tree. So he started ascending the tree with the axe, and the brother and sister, panicked, went up to the treetop. Now there was nowhere to run, and the tiger was lurking toward them. So the brother and sister started to pray, right? They were crying. I believe from the book that I've read, they were crying and they were doing this, and praying to God in the skies. The brother said, oh God, if you're listening, please send down a rope to save us. Or if you are not willing to save us, release a rotten one. And this is a folk tale, so a new rope came down from the skies. So the siblings grabbed on the rope and began to climb up the rope. They must have been really strong. Like, as an adult now, I know how hard it is to climb up a rope. But when I was a youngster reading this, I didn't think this was weird at all. Anyways, the siblings started to climb up the rope, and they reached the heavens. So the tiger, witnessing all this, a rope coming down from the skies, he also started to pray, God, please send down the rope. Now, the god was witnessing all this, so he sent down a rotten one this time. So the tiger tried to climb it, and when he was almost about to reach the heavens, I think, the rope began to cut. And so he fell off. And I remember reading a part where the tiger's blood made the field red. Let me search this up. So it's called in English sorghum field. So from the blood of the tiger, the sorghum field turned red. And that's why sorghum fields in Korea are red, according to this folktale legend. Anyways, the tiger is dead now, and the siblings are at the skies, at heaven. And the god was, I don't know the order. I think the siblings told him that they wanted to live there. I'm not sure. Anyways, so they couldn't go back down to earth, right? So God gave them, I guess, jobs to do. So the brother became the sun, and the sister became the moon. But from what I recall, the sister was still very young, right? And she was afraid of the dark. So she wanted to be the sun. So they asked God to switch roles. So the sister became the sun, and the brother became the moon. So based on this folk tale, there's a Korean myth that these siblings turn into the sun and the moon that we know of today. So that was the first one. Now let's look at the second tale. So there's this dude right here. He is supposed to be having mugwort and garlic in his hands, and that is a bear, I kid you not, and that is a tiger. I'll move myself up here. Boop. Right. So now you can see the words. So the second story is called Tangun Shinhwa, the myth of Tangun. And the place is Mount Tebek. And that's Baekdu Mountain now. And Shindansu is written here. It means Holy Tree of Life. So the characters of this myth are Hwan-in, who is the ruler of heavens, and Hwan-ung, son of Hwan-in, the gods of rain, wind, and clouds, a bear, a tiger, and Tangun, who is essentially what the story is about. Okay, so let's go. So I believe this story starts off with Hwan-in, and he was the ruler of heavens, and he had a son called Hwan-ung. Now, Hwan-ung was interested in earth. He wanted to go down to earth, and he wanted to rule earth. So Hwan-in, the father, knew of Hwan-ung's ambitions. So Hwan-in said, okay, Hwan-ung, you can go down to earth and you can start your own empire, so to speak. I may be wrong, but this is what I remember. Anyways, so Hwan-ung goes down to earth with the gods of rain, wind, and clouds, and some thousand followers. I think it was 3,000, 4,000, can't recall, sorry. Anyways, so they all go down to earth and they reach a place called Mount Tebek, and they see the Shindansu, which is the holy tree of life. Do they see it? Do they plant it? I can't remember. But anyways, so Hwan-in starts to rule over the earth. He sees the people there. He teaches them, right, the way of life, I guess. And they start to follow. Sorry, did I say Hwan-in? Should be Hwan-ung, right? So the people on earth started to follow Hwan-ung and his teachings. And one day, a bear and a tiger show up, and they are like, we really want to become humans, you know? And they have been praying to Hwan-ung for a long time. And Hwan-ung has witnessed them praying to him. So he's like, okay, I'm going to give you a chance to become human, but you have to overcome this trial, so to speak. So Hwan-ung told the bear and the tiger to go into a cave, do not see the sunlight, and eat only mugwort and garlic for 100 days. If they successfully do that, Hwan-ung promised to turn them into humans. So the bear and the tiger, they were, thrilled, right? Oh, we can finally become humans, right? So they go inside the cave with the mugwort and garlic. So they started off well at first, but after about 21 days, I think it was 21, the tiger was like, I can't do this anymore. I need blood. Screw this life. So he runs out of the cave. But the bear persisted, and I believe the bear stayed there for 100 days. And the bear came out of the cave, and Hwan-ung kept his promise and turned the bear into a woman. So the bear was essentially happy. But then I think after a few moments, I don't know for how long, the bear was sad. So Hwanung is like, hey, why are you sad? Now you're a human, right? And the bear was like, I want a child, but knowing that I was an animal before, nobody would marry her for some reason. I can't really remember. Anyways, so Hwanung was like, okay. So he decides to marry the bear. Oh, I'll call her Unyo from now. Here it says Unyo. It means bear woman. So Hwanung was moved by the bear's, I guess, prayers and her will to have a child. So Hwanung decides to marry Unyo, the bear woman, himself. So they get married and they have a son. And that son is Dangun. So essentially, Dangun is like the first prince of Korea. You know, Hwanung is the one who came down to earth to rule that place. And he married a human, right? A human, a bear turned. Anyways, he married a human, right? And they had a human son, and his name is Tangun, and he ruled Korea for more than 1500 years, I believe. And legends say that Tangun became a mountain spirit, a mountain god, and he moved to a place where the sun rises. So that is the myth of Tangun. It's saying how Korea has its roots to the heavens. Fun story. I think I got many details wrong there. I'm sorry. Anyways, let's move on to the second story. Sorry, not second, the third story. Alright, so from here on out, we're going to look at some Korean folk tales that are passed down through Pan-sori, which is a traditional Korean narrative song. So there are songs played to the beats of a drum called puk in Korea. And they would do little dances. It was like a drama, kind of like the old musical of ancient Korea, so to speak. So here it goes. The first one that's passed down through Pan-sori is the illustration is quite scary. The AI generated it for me. Anyways, the name of this tale, the folk tale, is Sugunga, which means Song of Underwater Palace. And to Koreans, it's famous as Tokijeon, the AKA, the also known as Tokijeon, which means story about a rabbit. Okay, so the setting is underwater palace. There's a dragon king and his servants, so to speak, and there's a turtle and this smart rabbit. Now, rabbit will appear frequently in Korean folk tales, and I don't know why, but they represent wit, witty, clever, smart beings. Okay, so a long time ago, there was this underwater palace in the seas, and there was a dragon king. Now, the dragon king fell ill, right? And he was seriously ill. So he calls a dosa. Now, dosa is like this Taoist master. I don't know what dosa literally means in English, but someone who knows the arts, like the magic of the old ancient times in Korea. Anyways, the dosa comes to the Dragon King and he tells him that the only cure for the disease that he has right now is an alive rabbit's liver. Yeah, a rabbit's liver. So the Dragon King, after hearing this, calls his servants, right? All the living sea creatures in the underwater palace. So he tells them, all right, I am dying and I should not die, obviously. So I need someone to go to the shore, find a rabbit, and bring his or her liver to me. And all the underwater sea creatures were just there trembling because nobody could go, to shore, right? They would die. They need to be in water to survive, right? But then there was a turtle that came by, and he said, Dragon King, I'm here for you, and I will get the rabbit's liver no matter what. Okay, so he pledged himself to get the liver for him. So the Dragon King's like, okay, go up to shore and get my rabbit's liver. Thank you. So the turtle goes up to shore and he was wandering and he sees a rabbit. So the turtle walks up to the rabbit and the turtle's like, hey, don't you want to see the underwater palace? It's really beautiful. It's magnificent. It's amazing. It's nothing like the earth that you live in, you know? And also, he added, from what I recall, some flattery, saying how beautiful the rabbit was. I can't remember, or how smart she was. I don't know. So the rabbit's like, all right, this is not a chance that comes often, right? You are a earth creature. You don't have the means to go to the underwater palace, right? So the rabbit's like, okay, let's go to this underwater palace. So as you can see in the illustration, the turtle gets the rabbit on its back and they go on the water. Huh. When I was young, this wasn't weird, but now it's weird. How did the rabbit breathe? Maybe some versions talk about how the rabbit breathes, but not the version that I've read. Anyways, so now they are at the palace, and the rabbit gets tied up straight away. And the Dragon King's like, sorry for deceiving you, Mr. or Miss Rabbit, but I need your raw liver to survive. And I am the Dragon King, so I have lots to do, and I shouldn't die. So don't be sad about your death. I will remember your doings. So the rabbit started to think, right? I can't die here. I can't die. So the rabbit had this brilliant idea. Yeah. So the rabbit's like, hold up. You needed my liver? Why didn't you say that in the first place? You didn't even have to tie me up. This was all unnecessary, you know? The rabbit's like, I have my liver somewhere that only I know. And the Dragon King's like, huh? How is that possible? How could you have your liver outside of your body? And the rabbit's like, oh, you know nothing about rabbits. Rabbits, their to keep on living, I guess, they had to keep their livers fresh and they had to put them out in the sun to keep them fresh. I don't know, I guess it's liver photosynthesis, if that's the right scientific concept. Anyways, so the Dragon Kings were a little bit skeptical, but he's like, all right. So he told the turtle to follow the rabbit to shore again and bring the rabbit's liver. That's supposedly outside, only where the rabbit knows, right? So they go up, the turtle and the rabbit, they go up. And as soon as they reach the shore, the turtle's like, okay, rabbit, so where is this liver that's lying under the sun? And the rabbit's like, are you out of your mind? You're an idiot, you fool. How can an animal live with its liver outside? And the rabbit runs away. Now, this story is very popular among kids in Korea, and I remember reading a whole bunch of versions, and it has a lot of endings, right? One ending I remember is quite a sad one. So after the rabbit runs away, the turtle becomes traumatized, I guess. He realizes that if he goes back to the underwater palace without the rabbit's liver, he's gonna end up dead for failing the mission, right? So he commits suicide. I know, tough. So the Dragon King, realizing that the turtle committed suicide, feels really bad for the turtle, right? And he never, I don't know how it ends. Anyways, so that's one ending where the turtle commits suicide. Another ending, so now the turtle is scared to go back, right? So the turtle does not go back. And the turtle are seen to live near the waters now, right? That is why you see turtles live near land. That's the legend, you know? They don't always live underwater. It's because they're afraid of the Dragon King. And the third one I like is the rabbit's like, ha, liver my ass, eat this. And he or she takes a crap, right? She defecates. And the turtle, having no choice, takes the poo of the rabbit, goes back to the palace, and gives it to the Dragon King. Surprisingly, the Dragon King eats the rabbit's poo and heals completely. That's one ending that I like. Yeah, fun. The next one is, as you can see in the illustration, it shows this picture of a girl in a lotus flower boat. This is a famous one too, and it's called Shim, which means the tale of Shim. All right, so the characters first. There's Shim Hak-gyu, who is Shim Chang's father. There is Shim Chang. There is a Buddhist monk, Dragon King of the East Sea, and Jade Emperor, who is the primordial god in these folk tales, Chinese Emperor of the Song Dynasty. So this story happens in modern day Song Dynasty where it used to be, so somewhere in China, right? Okay, so there was a man named Shim Hak-gyu, and he was a blind man, and he had a daughter, Shim Chang. Now she was famous for being really kind, and in Korean folk tales, an encompassing theme is filial piety, which means showing love and taking good care of your parents. That is a major theme in Korean folk tales. And this tale will be talking about that theme. It is the prime example of filial piety. Anyways, so Shim Chang was famous for being kind and nice to people, especially to her father, who is blind. And I believe her mother passed away early. Anyways, one night, Shim Hak-gyu was worried because Shim Chang was not returning home. So Shim Hak-gyu is blind, but goes outside and shouts, Shim Chang, where are you? Where are you? And because it's dark outside and he couldn't see, he falls into this, I believe it was a pit or some kind of water. And so he was about to die. But then there was a Buddhist monk walking by, and this monk saves Shim Hak-gyu. So Shim Hak-gyu thanks the Buddhist monk. So this Buddhist monk sees Shim Hak-gyu, and the Buddhist monk said, you are a blind man. Your blindness can be cured. So Shim Hak-gyu is like, what? How? And this monk says, if you offer, I believe it was 300 sacks of rice to Buddha, your blindness will be cured. Your eyes will open. So Shim Hak-gyu was already elated that he was saved by this Buddhist monk, right? So he makes a promise on that spot. He says, thank you for letting me know how to make my eyes open, I guess. He promised to offer the 300 sacks of rice to Buddha. Now Shim Hak-gyu goes back home and Shim Chang returns. But then Shim Hak-gyu seems distressed, And Shim Cheong asks Shim Hakyu, "Wait, father, what's up? What's wrong?" And Shim Hakyu's like, "Ah, so um, a few hours ago this happened, and I was so excited that I made a promise to Buddha to offer rice, but then thinking about it, I can't afford that much rice, you know? We are a poor family. We don't have enough money to buy 300 sacks of rice." So he was worried that he might have angered Buddha, and he was scared what Buddha will do to them. So he was looking all miserable and depressed. Anyways, so later that night, they go to sleep, and Shim Cheong, in her dreams, sees her mother. And her mother tells Shim Cheong that if you go to a harbor, she will be able to meet a man, and if she talks to the man will provide the rice to Shim Cheong for her father to offer to Buddha. So Shim Cheong the next day goes to the harbor. Now, meanwhile, the Dragon King of the East Sea, he was mad at the merchants crossing the sea. I can't recall why he was mad, but he sent tempests, big waves to sunk these merchant ships. So the merchants were like, "Oh, we need to sacrifice someone. We need a maiden to sacrifice to please the Dragon King of the East Sea." So they were like, "Oh, we need to find a maiden to sacrifice. Anyone willing to sell a woman?" And nobody was willing to be sacrificed, right? But then Shim Cheong approaches the man, and Shim Cheong hears about this, and Shim Cheong's like, "Okay, I will sacrifice myself, and you should promise to give my father Shim Hakyu the rice." So the merchants like, "Okay, hop on the ship." But here I believe, from what I remember, I can't recall, the merchants send the rice to Shim Hakyu, I think, and then Shim Cheong goes into the boat, right? And then she throws herself to the waters. She sacrifices herself to please the Dragon King of the East Sea. Sad. But the Jade Emperor, the god of this folktale, was looking at all this, and God was really, really touched and moved by Shim Cheong's filial piety, her love for her parents. So the Jade Emperor tells the Dragon King of the East Sea to save Shim Cheong from the waters, right? So the Dragon King not only saves Shim Cheong, but also takes good care of her. I believe the Dragon King opens up a feast for Shim Cheong underwater, and somehow Shim Cheong's mother was also there, so they reunite. So Shim Cheong spends some good days, happy days underwater. Meanwhile, Shim Hakyu, he received the rice, right? So he offers all the rice to Buddha, but his eyes didn't open. Sad. Anyways, after a couple of days, it was time for Shim Cheong to go back. So the Dragon King was like, "Okay, now let's get you ready to go back to Earth, and I will provide the ship for you." And that ship is this one right here, the lotus flower looking boat. So Shim Cheong goes above water in this lotus flower shaped boat, right? And the Chinese emperor of the Song dynasty witnesses this, and he's overwhelmed, He sees a beautiful girl from a lotus flower. How symbolic, right? So he's like, "Oh, I need to marry this woman." So they get married. So now Shim Cheong is the empress, I guess, and she asks the emperor to throw a party for her, a feast for the blind people. So the emperor says, "Okay," and they open a feast for the blind people. So blind people from all over the country gathered to the party. Now, Shim Cheong's father, Shim Hak-gyu, was also at the party. And Shim Cheong goes to her father, tells all about this, and Shim Hak-gyu becomes so happy and elated that his eyes open. He can see again. And the blind people that attended the feast, they too opened their eyes magically. And they lived happily ever after. So I messed up many details here and there. I know, I'm terribly sorry, but that's the basic gist of the story. There's Shim Cheong loves her father, sacrifices herself so that her father can offer the rice, and so that her father wouldn't worry anymore of angering Buddha, right? But then she gets saved, comes up from this lotus, marries the emperor, and becomes rich, calls her father. Her father opens his eyes, and they live happily ever after. That's the gist. Hope you enjoyed it. If it was interesting, I recommend reading a book version of it. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Alright, so the next one is also a very popular folktale in Korea, and the name of it is Chun the Tale of Chun. So this one is a long story. I'll try to keep it compact, so I will miss many details, but I assure you it's fun. The characters are Chun, Imong-ryong, Wolmei, Pyeonakdo. So these are kind of the main characters, right? There's a concept that you need to know here. At the bottom here in Korean it says Amheng Osa. That means a secret royal inspector that investigates and prosecutes corrupt government officials. I'll mention why you need to know that later on. Okay, so the story starts off with Imong-ryong. He's the male protagonist of this story. Imong-ryong strolls outside, and he walks around, and he witnesses this girl. Her name is Chun-hyang, and she is playing on a swing. As you can see in this absurd illustration, she's playing on the swing, and Imong-ryong falls madly in love with her somehow. Love at first sight, I guess. So Imong-ryong asks his servant to approach Chun-hyang to get her to come to him so they can speak. Chun-hyang refuses first. So Imong-ryong's like, okay, but I won't give up here. I won't give in. So he can't believe if it was himself or his servant that goes to Wolmei. Wolmei is Chun-hyang's mother. So anyhow, Imong-ryong or his servant goes to Wolmei and asks if he could marry Chun-hyang. So at first, Chun-hyang's mother, who's Wolmei, she's like, no, not sure. But then later, she's like, okay, you can marry my daughter. And so Chun-hyang and Imong-ryong gets married. And Chun-hyang also falls in love with Imong-ryong. Now, there are many details I've skipped, but that's the gist. So they get married, they live happily. Now, Imong-ryong's father was a government official, but Imong-ryong had to go to Hyang, which is the capital, is like Seoul of today. So Imong-ryong's father had to leave to the capital. It was the country's orders. So Imong-ryong had to follow him as well. I can't really recall why, but the family had to go all together. So they had to go to Hyang, the capital. And Chun-hyang is devastated to hear that. She breaks stuff, right? She gets all emotional, which is understandable, right? But then later on, when everything's settled, as like this vow, she gives ring to Imong-ryong, saying that she will stay faithful to Lee Mong-ryong and that she will wait for him to come back. And she promises not to marry another man. She promises her royalty, faithfulness to Lee Mong-ryong. And Lee Mong-ryong's also like, yep, and I promise my royalty and faithfulness to you too. And one day I'll come back and take you to Hanyang, the capital, with me. So Lee Mong-ryong and his father, the government official of that area, leaves to Hanyang. So another government official comes to this area, right? And his name is Pyeonhak-do. And he was a greedy one. He loved frolicking with Kiseng. Now, Kiseng is like, how should I say? Kiseng, they are women trained to entertain men. They are trained to, I guess, sing and dance for the rich men, right? And kind of act like servants, I guess. So this Pyeonhak-do, this new government official, loved playing with Kiseng, and he didn't work hard, He just gathered taxes and he would make the people living in his area miserable. He was good at doing that, right? So in this area, Pyeonhak-do was doing his stuff and he hears about Chunhyang and how beautiful she is. So Pyeonhak-do orders Chunhyang to be his kiseng, one of his kisengs. And Chunhyang is like, nope, I am not gonna do that. And Pyeonhak-do starts to threaten her, right? If you're not gonna be my kiseng, I'm gonna harm your family, I'm gonna tie you up, I'm gonna imprison you. And Chunhyang's still like, nope. So Pyeonhak-do ends up imprisoning Chunhyang. Misuse of his power, yeah. And I believe he also makes. So after imprisoning her, he goes to Chunhyang and like, you have nowhere to go, just be my kiseng, right? And Chunhyang's still like, no, I will never be your kiseng. I have the love of my life, coming to get me. So Pyeonhak-do gets really mad and he gets Chunhyang to be beaten in public. It's called gonjang in Korea. It's like a really long paddle. They used to beat people with that as a torture way of torture. So Chunhyang gets beaten, and yeah, a sad story. Meanwhile, Lee Mong-ryong passed this national test, so to speak, and he becomes an amheng osa, which I mentioned before. So he becomes this secret royal inspector. It's a really, really high rank thing back in the day. So he becomes the secret royal inspector and he goes back to where Chunhyang lives, right? He goes back to the village. Now, he hears about Pyeonhak-do and what has happened to Chunhyang. So Lee Mong-ryong goes to Chunhyang, I think, first when she was imprisoned, right? And Chunhyang is like, oh no, Lee Mong-ryong goes to Chunhyang, but he conceals his identity. So he's wearing shabby, baggy clothes, dirty clothes, and he goes to Chunhyang. But Chunhyang is like, I still love you no matter what you're wearing or how you're looking, I guess, what your status is. And I'm never going to give in to Pyeonhak-do. And Lee Mong-ryong is really touched by what Chunhyang says. And then later, Pyeonhak-do throws a birthday party and he calls many government officials. And in that party, they were taking turns reciting, I guess, poems, but they were all impromptu poems, right? Ad-libbed in the spot, on the spot. And Lee Mong-ryong goes to the party and he too makes a satirical poem about Pyeonhak-do's misuse of power and about his love, I guess. But Byeonhakdo was not a smart man, so he does not get the poetry, right? So he's still partying, and in that moment, Lee Mong-ryong discloses his identity. I am Amengwasa, secret royal inspector, and he shows his national badge with horses in it. And he's like, Pyeonhakdo, you've been misusing your power, and I know all your uh, sins, I guess, right? So Lee Mong-ryong's like, so Lee Mong-ryong punishes Pyeonhakdo severely on the spot. So Pyeonhakdo is no more. Anyways, Lee Mong-ryong now is all dressed up in fancy clothes with a hat on and stuff, right? He calls Chun-hyang. He summons Chun-hyang. Chun-hyang does not recognize Lee Mong-ryong at first. And Lee Mong-ryong is like, Chun-hyang, be my giseng. And Chun-hyang is like, no, I have a love of my life waiting for me. So Lee Mong-ryong takes off his hat and reveals his identity to Chun-hyang. So Chun-hyang gets really happy for seeing Lee Mong-ryong, and Lee Mong-ryong's really touched by her loyalty, should I say. Did I say royalty till now? Should be loyalty. Anyways, so yeah, they live happily ever after. I've read these folk tales long time ago, so my memory sucks. Hope you had fun though. Alright, so that was this one. So now we'll move on to the next folk tale. Now this one right here is one of the most popular Korean folk tale, and I think it's safe to say that every kid, I'd say from grade 2 and above, knows this story. Like if you are a Korean kid, no matter where you are, whether you're growing up in Korea or somewhere abroad like me, you have no choice but to read this story somehow. So the name of the story is Heung-bu Chun, which means the Tale of Heung-bu. It's more commonly known as Heung-bu Nolbu because the antagonist, should I say, is Nolbu in this tale. So the characters are Heung-bu, Nolbu, and Nobu's wife and baby swallow. There's of course Heung-bu's wife and his kids as well, but in my summary, I'll only mention these characters. So yeah, let's go. So the story starts off with a rich family. This family had two sons. Their names were Heung-bu and Nolbu. Now, Heung-bu is the definition of kindness and humbleness and, being nice to others. On the other hand, Nolbu was the definition of greed. He was the epitome, the living being, the walking greed man, selfish man. That was Nolbu. Now, Heung-bu and Nolbu's father died, so they had to split his wealth. So Heung-bu Nolbu's father wanted them to split the wealth in halves, but Nolbu tricked Heung-bu somehow, and he took all the money, all his father's belongings, and kicked Heung-bu and his family out of the house. So Nolbu took control of the rich house and all the money, and Heung-bu had to go out and find a place of his own for him and his family of 20 children. I know, 20. So they were living, Nolbu was enjoying his life while Heung-bu was having a hard time harvesting, barely making a living. But one season, Heung-bu couldn't get much harvested, I guess. So he went to Nolbu's house to beg for rice, for something to eat. And Nolbu's wife was cooking in the kitchen. So Heung-bu goes and knocks onto Nolbu's door, Nolbu's house door, And oh, our children, we're all starving. Our family is starving. Please spare us some food. And Nobu's wife comes out of the house and she's like, I won't give you anything. And she was cooking, right? So she had a paddle, a rice paddle on her hand. And she slaps Heung-bu on the face. Now, Heung-bu does not get mad, but he collects the rice that has stuck on his cheek, right? And he eats them. Now, this time, Heung-bu asks Nobu's wife to slap him on the other side of the cheek so that he could take the rice and feed his kids. So Nobu's wife was more than happy to smack him. So Nobu's wife smacked him once again. So Heung-bu carefully collects these rice, crumbs of rice, and goes back home to feed his children. But on the way home, Heung-bu sees a snake trying to attack a swallow's nest. So Heung-bu chases the snake away. Now, in doing that, a baby swallow fell off from the nest and broke its leg. So Heung-bu wanted to take care of this baby swallow. So he carefully grabs the baby swallow, goes back home, and his family were all welcoming the swallow, right? They took good care of him, fixed his leg, fed him, even though they had nothing to eat, worms and all that. So after a while, the baby swallow healed completely and he learned to fly. So by that time, when the swallow learned to fly, he flew off to what seemed to be his family. Yeah, and Heung-bu's family was like, bye bye, swallow. But then the swallow came back a couple of days later with a pumpkin seed. And Heung-bu saw the seed and like, how interesting. Let's plant it. So Heung-bu plants the pumpkin seed on the backyard of their house. Now the pumpkin grew in size, like humongous in size, and the pumpkins went up to the house, the roof of the house. So Heung-bu's like, now I need to cut them open. They're too big, right? So Heung-bu cuts them off, right, to the ground, and when he opens them, believe it or not, the pumpkins contained, from what I recall, servants. So people came out of the pumpkins, and gold, treasure, gems and jewels came out, and also fine fabric. So Heung-bu instantaneously became rich, right? So he could live happily again. Now, Norbu heard about what happened to Heung-bu, right? So he was curious how Heung-bu became rich again. So Nobu goes to Heung-bu's house. Now it's looking grandeur, even better than his old house, right? And Heung-bu tells Nobu about what happened between him and the swallow that he saved. And Nobu's like, I should do the same thing. So on the way back home, Nobu sees a swallow's nest. He grabs a baby swallow and he breaks the swallow's leg. Now Nobu takes the baby swallow home and takes care of the baby swallow, of the swallow that he broke the leg. Now the baby swallow heals and now it is ready to fly, so it flies off. And a couple of days later, the baby swallow came back to Nobu, this time with a gourd seed. So Nobu plants the seed at the back of his house. The gourds go up to the roof and they are huge, they are humongous. So Nobu's like, okay, now it's time to harvest. And he was really happy. So he calls all of his family and he's like, look, I'm gonna open these gourds and we're gonna be rich. See what is inside. And from what I remember, there are many versions. So from the version that I read when I was a child, the first gourd contained, I think, robbers. Oh, no, sorry. The first gourd contained 도깨비. Now, dokebi is this mystical Korean creature, basically Korean goblin. It's very different from the Goblin K series, the drama. The handsome goblin, very different, very different. So these dokebi is basically Korean goblin. Anyways, so these dokebis came out of the gourd and beat the hell out of Nobu and his family. And this living creature, these goblins knew about Nobu's greed and all that stuff. So he beats them, and the goblins had this magic rod, so to speak, and also did some sort of magic to the house. Anyways, the second gourd contained robbers. So robbers came out. They too beat the crap out of Nobu and his family and stole Nobu's belongings in broad daylight. Now, the third gourd, when Nobu opened it, a flood of muddy water came out, from what I recall. So the muddy water flooded the house, and now you couldn't stay in the house. It's all crumbled to the ground. So Nobu instantaneously became very, very poor. So after all this, Nobu realized how greedy he was, right? And how his life was not good, toward others. So he goes to Heung-bu and he asks for forgiveness. He's like, I've done so much wrong to you and to the people around. I hope you can forgive me. And Heung-bu, being the good citizen, being the good man, says, it's okay, brother. Come and stay with us. We have a lot of room. So Nobu repents, and he becomes a good man from then on. And Heung-bu and Nobu's family live happily ever after. Hope that was fun. Now we'll move on to the next ones. Right, now we'll move on to the next chapter, chapter 3. These are Korean folk tales passed down through word of mouth. So I guess they were popularized by parents to their kids. It's sent down from generation to generations. Yeah, let's talk about them. Before that, cheers. And this is a cute cup. Love it. All right. Let's go. So this is the first one. The title is 토끼의 재판, which literally means the rabbit's judgment. The characters are man, tiger, pine tree, ox, and rabbit. And I'll summarize them in a nutshell really, really quick. So there was this tiger, right? He was roaming around the woods, and as you can see, he fell into a deep pit, and he couldn't get back up. He tried desperately to get out of the pit, but he failed miserably all the time. So he cried for help, and remember, the animals could speak here in these tales. Yeah. So the tiger cried out for help. Oh, save me, I'm down here. But nobody was around. And I guess days passed, and just as he was about to give up, a man was walking by, right? So the tiger's like, please save me, save me. And the man looks down to the pit. At first, the man's scared, obviously. So the tiger's like, please save me. If you do, I promise I won't eat you, right? And I'll thank you for the rest of my life. So the man's like, promise? The tiger's like, yeah. The man's like, pinky, pinky promise? The tiger's like, yes, yes, yes. So the man looks around, finds a big, big log, and somehow manages to put it down on the pit. So the tiger climbs up the log, and he jumps out of the pit, right? After climbing the log, and the log fell to the pit. As soon as the tiger got out of the pit, he started to circle around the man, and he was about to attack the man, obviously. I mentioned tigers are the evil. His mouth began to water. So the man's like, oh, wait, this is not the promise that you made, right? And the tiger's like, haha, sucks to be you. Who told you to trust me, a tiger? And so the man was desperate to survive, right? So he's like, okay. Before you eat me, let's ask some living beings, I guess. Let's ask someone if it's right for you to eat me. So the man's like, let's ask a pine tree first. So the tiger was like, okay, I guess it's my last show of grace before I eat you, the tiger. So the tiger's like, okay, let's ask the pine tree, but let's get it done and over with quickly. So the man and the tiger goes to a pine tree and tells the pine tree to judge whether it is right for the tiger to eat the man. The pine tree listens to their story, and the pine tree is like, huh, tiger, go ahead and devour this man. The pine tree was like, all the things that humans do are bad. All they do is cut down the trees, and use our branches to make fire, They know nothing about grace. They are ungrateful beings. So the pine tree was like, tiger, quickly eat the man. So the tiger was like, haha, you see that? Sucks to be you. And he was about to pounce, but then the man's like, okay. There is an ox walking by. Let's ask the ox whether it's right to eat me. So the tiger was like, I'm hungry, but all right. Okay, guess it's my last show of grace one more time. So they go to the ox and ask, hey, this is the story, blah, 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 blah. And now they're like, please make a judgment whether it's right for the tiger to eat the man. The ox was like, haha, suits you right, human. All you do is make us work, make us plow the fields, and when we turn weak, when we're old and weak, all you do is cut our heads off and eat us, We become beef, steaks, You know nothing about gratitude. So the ox is like, go ahead, tiger, please eat the man. So the man was about to give up, but then a rabbit was passing by. So the man's like, okay, just one last time. Let's ask this rabbit if it's right for you to eat me. Now the tiger was enjoying this, He felt like the world was on his side, right? Everyone was saying the tiger should eat the man, right? So the tiger's like, haha, okay, that's the last one, yeah? But after that, I'm gonna eat you anyways. So now they ask the rabbit, they tell the rabbit about the story of what had happened. Now, the rabbit thinks for a moment and he's like, okay. I want to make a correct judgment and I want to make a wise one. But to do that, I really need to see the scene unfold before my eyes. I want to see what had happened, So let's all go back to where this pit was. So they go there, and the rabbit's like, okay, so let me get this straight. You, the tiger, was at this pit, right? And man, where did you come from? Could you go there? It's still not looking right. Tiger, why don't you go inside the pit and show me what exactly had happened? And the tiger, anxious to get this over and done with, without hesitation, went down the pit. And now the rabbit's like, now I can't see what had happened. So tiger, you were down there, and man, you were up here. Now, this started because you saved the tiger. So it wouldn't have been a problem if you didn't save the tiger. So my judgment is, let's all rewind and not make a problem again by not saving the tiger. Goodbye to both of you. So now the tiger couldn't get back up and the man was safe. And I believe from the version that I remember, hunters would come later and killed the tiger. Oh, it's a bit weird. Like when I was young, I didn't find it, you know, unrealistic, but now it's very improbable that the tiger went back to the pit. Anyways, so that was the rabbit's judgment. Now, next one. Right, so here is a fun one too, and you can see the tiger and the rabbit. And the title of this tale is Tokiwa Horangi, and literally it means the rabbit and the tiger. Oh, I gotta change the characters. Hold on. Okay, so the characters looking much better now. There's only tiger and rabbit for this one. So this story happens with the tiger and rabbit encountering each other, and the tiger immediately gets into position to pounce to the rabbit, right? But the rabbit's like, hold up, don't eat me. If you eat me now, you'll be full for a couple of minutes and you'll be hungry again. But if you let me live, I'm gonna give you some rice cakes and, you have a full meal. So the tiger thinks to himself, the rabbit is right. If I eat the rabbit, I might get a little bit full, but it's not gonna satiate my hunger. So the tiger's like, okay, rabbit, give me these rice cakes. So the rabbit grabs some rocks, some stones, right? And the rabbit starts a campfire and he throws these rocks, the stones, into the campfire. And the rabbit's like, these are special rice cakes that need to be in the fire for quite some time. But trust me, they taste really good. And the rabbit's like, to really, really enjoy these specific types of rice cakes, I'll need to get some honey for you. And these rice cakes go really well with honey. So the rabbit's like, I'll be right back. Right? So the tiger's like, okay, be quick. And the rabbit runs away. Now the tiger didn't know that he was deceived, right? So he waits and waits, but the rabbit does not come back. The tiger is infuriated, but he had no choice, right? What could he do? Nothing. The rabbit ran away. So he's like, this rabbit got me. But at least there's the rice cake that the rabbit talked about in the fire. So the tiger, without hesitation, without giving it thought, takes the stones, I guess, directly to his mouth and gulps them. So his insides are all burnt. Now he's really, really mad, right? Angry, but he couldn't do anything. A couple of days later, they meet up again. This time, the tiger jumps straight into the rabbit and grabs it by the neck, right? And as it was about to give a really good bite, the rabbit's like, hold up. Last time, I was on my way to get honey for you, but I got lost. So this time, I will get some birds for you. The rabbit was like, as long as you keep your mouth open on the floor, I promise to feed you as many birds as possible. So the tiger was like, so I can eat birds without hunting? That sounds good. And the tiger always wanted to try eating birds, right? He could never catch them by himself because they were always flying. So the tiger was like, okay, but you better be quick. So the rabbit was like, okay, lie on the ground here and keep your mouth open. So the tiger lay down and had his mouth wide open, right? And after some time, he decided to close his eyes. I don't know why. So the rabbit set the forest on fire. Now the tiger, hearing the fire, I guess, burning the trees and whatnot around, thought they were birds flapping. So he's like, so I can hear these birds coming to me. But then as the fire got up to him, he opened his eyes and he saw fire all around him. He made it out alive, but he was burned outside this time. And he was really, really mad. And he's like, I'm gonna get that rabbit someday. And now it's winter. And somehow they meet again. I guess the rabbit's not very smart, encountering the tiger at the same spot. Well, we don't know if it's the same spot, anyways, but the tiger now jumps to the rabbit again, and he was like, I'm going to eat you now. But the rabbit's like, okay, okay, okay. I'm really sorry, but last time I saw fire starting, so I had no choice but to run away. The rabbit was like, I can't fool you anymore. This time I'm not gonna bring you food, but I'm gonna take you to a place where it's full of fish. Now, we all know tigers are cats, basically. Big, big cats, right? So you mention fish to cats, they get crazy, and the tiger is like, I can have a buffet of fish? So this tiger is like, oh, okay, take me to this place where it's full of fish. So the tiger and the rabbit go to a lake. Now it's really cold, right? The rabbit's like, if you put your tail in the water, fish will come to the tail like magnet. You will notice fish coming and they will cling on to your tail because your tail is warm. So the tiger, without a bit of a doubt, puts its tail in the water and he waits. And the rabbit's like, you have to wait. Oh, I see fish coming. I see them coming. Wait, wait, wait. But then the tail starts to freeze and the water starts to freeze with the tail. Now the tiger couldn't get his tail out of the water. So he was tricked again. And the tiger dies of frostbite. Yep, that's the tale. Thinking about it now, it's quite cruel. Yeah. And when I was young, I was like, haha, serves you right, tiger. But now, as an adult, I firmly believe that Jerry is the antagonist of Tom and Jerry. I feel bad for the tiger. Anyways, let's move on to the next tale. This is a popular one too. This is basically the Honest Woodcutter, but Korean version. We all know the Honest Woodcutter, right? So here the title is 금도끼 은도끼, which translates to golden axe, silver axe. The characters are Woodcutter 1, Woodcutter 2, and 산신령, which means a mountain god or a mountain spirit. So this story goes like this. A long, long time ago, there was an honest woodcutter. He picked a nice spot to chop down wood, but then the fatigue got the better of him later, and his axe slipped into this lake or pond. I'll say lake. So his axe slipped into the lake, right? And he was devastated, That was his only axe. So he was kneeling down on the lake, beside the lake, trying to see where the axe was, right? But it was too deep for him to get it. So he was all sad. But then, 산신령, a mountain god, the mountain spirit, came above the waters. And he had a golden axe and a silver axe in his hands. And this mountain god asks the woodcutter, saying, is this golden axe yours? And the woodcutter is like, no sir, that's not mine. So this time the mountain god hands out the silver one and says, is this yours then? And the honest woodcutter is like, that's not mine too. Mine is made of iron and it's rusted in some parts. Yeah, it's not a good looking one. So the mountain god is moved by this honest woodcutter's honesty, so to say. So he decides to give him all three axes, the golden one, the silver one, and the iron one that he used to have. Now, axe is big, right? And if you have a golden and a silver one, you can sell them for huge amounts of money, I guess. So this woodcutter becomes rich instantly, just like that. Now this story, this rumor spreads around, and it goes into the ears of another woodcutter. Now he's like, oh, I should follow the same steps. I should follow the trail and become rich like him. So he goes to the exact spot that the first woodcutter went to, and he throws his axe into the lake. Now, just like last time, the mountain spirit comes up, and he has, voila, a golden axe and a silver axe in his hands. The mountain god asks the woodcutter too, is this golden axe yours? And the woodcutter's like, yep, that's definitely mine. So the mountain god's like, okay, is this silver one yours too? And the woodcutter, number 2, is like, that is exactly what's right. That is mine too. Now the mountain god, this mountain spirit, gets really annoyed with this woodcutter's greed and dishonesty. So he goes back into the waters, and he doesn't even give back the axe that the woodcutter threw deliberately. So woodcutter number 2 loses his axe and stays the same, poor. Yeah. So that's the Korean, the honest woodcutter version. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Alright, now this one is one of my personal favorites. I love this Korean folk tale. The title of this is 훈장님과 꿀단지, which translates to The Teacher and His Honeypot. The characters are the teacher, obviously, and his smart students. So this story starts off with a teacher, right? And he has this habit of secretly eating honey during classes. It's like us during class, we try to sneak some chips and whatnot while we, listen to classes. Anyways, so he had this habit of eating honey secretly, or trying to be, sneaky. But one day, one of his students catches him trying to eat something from this pot. So the student was like, teacher, what is that? What are you taking out from the pot? So the teacher is shocked at first, right? He's surprised he got caught red-handed. But then he thinks and he says, this is medicine, and this medicine is only for adults. If kids eat the medicine, they will die. It's toxic for kids. That's what the teacher said. Now, a few days later, the teacher had to go somewhere off for an event. He had to participate in some town event or something. So the students were in class waiting for the teacher to come back. Now, one of his students is like, why don't we try eating the medicine that the teacher talked about? Now, the student knew that it was not medicine. He's like, I smell something fishy from what the teacher said, right? I know that's something delicious. He's trying to hide it from us. So the student grabs the pot and tastes it, and it's honey. So the students gather up. They gather around the pot and eat all the honey inside the pot. Now, the pot is empty, and the students come to their senses, and they've realized what they've done. They've stolen the teacher's honey, right? They ate it all. So they all go into panic mode, like, what should we do? What should we do? So that smart student, that said, let's eat that thing, takes the pot outside and smashes it on the yard. So the pot breaks, and he orders all the students to roll on the floor and pretend to be dying. Now the teacher was coming, and the teacher witnessed what was going on, right? There's a broken pot on the ground, and the students were all rolling on the ground, and they were screaming in pain, right? So the teacher's like, what's up? What's going on? What's going on? So the smart student was like, oh, we were all playing around and we accidentally broke your pot. And to punish ourselves, we decided to eat the medicine that would kill us. And we were about to kill ourselves with the medicine. So, as you can see, all of us ate the medicine and now we're dying. We're really sorry for your pot. Please forgive us. So the teacher is like, these kids. And so he realized how he was, being selfish. So the teacher's like, okay, get up. That was not medicine that made you die. That was honey. So the teacher now is like, okay, you guys win. And he promises the students that he won't secretly eat something delicious behind their backs. And from then on, whenever he got something tasty, I guess, he would share it with his students. So, happy, fun ending. I really like this one. I don't know why, but yep. Let's go on to the next one. Ooh, so I've prepared some spooky ones. Two spooky ones, but they're not very, very scary. I promise you. So don't end the video here. So these two creepypasta tales are also quite popular. And the first one is Yo Nui, which translates to the Fox Sister. This is basically the Korean version of the nine-tailed fox. It appears a lot in Asian culture, the nine-tailed fox. Okay, so here goes. From what I remember, I will get some details wrong. The story starts out with a rich family. These parents, they had 3 sons, and they really, really longed for a daughter. So they prayed and prayed and really, really wished desperately for a daughter. And voila, they got their daughter. So now they had 3 sons and the youngest daughter. Now, I believe the daughter turned 6 years old, I think. And when the daughter turned 6 years old, every night, a horse or a cow that they owned in their barn would die mysteriously. So the parents, the rich parents, asked the oldest son to guard the barn during the night. He was like, son, go to the barn in the middle of the night and see what's going on with these horses and cows. Like, see what's killing them. So the first one hides himself in the barn and looks out to see what happens. And what he sees terrifies him. He sees his youngest sister go into the barn, and the youngest sister morphs into a 9-tailed fox and kills one of the animals. And she does it by slitting the throat of the animal and does not eat the animal wholly, but only goes for the liver. I don't know what it is with livers, but the 9-tailed fox would kill an animal and eat its liver. Yep. So the first son is traumatized and tells his parents about it. But of course, who would believe that nonsense, right? So the parents are like, I think you're lying. So the parents this time asks the second son, right? The second oldest son, to do the same. Now, he too sees the same thing. So he also goes to the parents and say, oh, I've witnessed the same thing. Our sister turned into a 9-tailed fox and killed a cow and ate its liver. So the parents had enough, right? They were like, you guys are just jealous because we love our daughter more. So they kicked them out of the house. And after kicking the 2 boys out, the parents asked the third one to do the same. Now, the third one, witnessing how the first and the second were kicked out because they were being honest, was like, the horse died because of a disease. I think it was groaning in pain suddenly and it just died. So the parents were like, okay, finally, you're being honest. And so they live on like that. Now, the eldest one and the second son were kicked out, right? From the version that I remember, the first son, the eldest one, finds himself a wife, and he uh, gets his own family, so to say. And a few years had passed, and now he missed his parents and the town that he grew up. He moved to another village. So he tells his wife that he would like to visit his old town, old village. Now, his wife's family were into the arts of Taoism. So his wife was like, a nine-tailed fox? Okay, I will, I will allow you to go back to your village, but take these three bottles with you, and they were colored, I believe, yellow, red, and blue. And she said, whenever you're in danger, throw one of the bottles. So he was like, okay, thank you, wife. So he gets his stuff, he packs his bag, gets on a horse, and goes back to the village. Now, the village is looking a lot like Silent Hill, I guess. Not many people there, right? It's all eerie. So he goes to this chumak, is where you can sleep in and where you can eat food. And he asks what's going on in the village, right? And the owner of the inn, so to speak, the chumak, says like, oh, the village has been weird for some years. People have been dying, gone missing, and there's a house over there that's empty. But a lot of people are saying they are witnessing something during the night. Something spooky is going on. And the eldest brother is like, oh, that is my house. So he quickly goes to the house, and the house is all empty. It's empty, there are moles, and it's all crumbling down. But then his sister comes out of that empty, abandoned house, that deserted house. And the sister was like, oh, long time no see, brother. Come on in, come on in. Let me give you some food. But the eldest brother sensed something weird, right? He thought if he went into the house, he would die. So, trusting his senses, he turned back and started to run. Now, the youngest sister, the daughter, turned into a nine-tailed fox and started to chase the oldest brother. Kind of like Baba Yaga, right? So the nine-tailed fox was much faster than the horse that the eldest brother was riding on. So the eldest brother threw a yellow bottle first, and the yellow bottle broke, and I believe it was thorns that came out from them, a bush of thorn, a thorn bush. But the fox, the nine-tailed fox, right, went through the bushes. But it was all bleeding, right? But it was still chasing the sun. So the sun this time threw the second bottle. I think it was the red one first. And the red one had fire, I think walls of fire come out from the bottle. So the fox got burnt all over, but it didn't give in, right? It kept chasing her brother, so to speak. So the brother this time threw the last bottle, the blue one, and huge amounts of water started to come out from the bottle, and it made a sea in the spot. So the fox drowned in the water and died. Now, from the version that I've read and heard when I was a child, I remember the fox during the chase scream and shout very creepy things to the brother, such as, oh, I've eaten 99 livers now, and you've come to become my 100th liver. Now I can turn into a real human. Come on, brother. Something like that. And she also mentions to him how she ate his youngest brother and his parents. Yeah. A lot of creepy, spooky things. So that's the story. Kind of like Baba Yaga, right? Okay, let's move on to the next creepy pasta. So this next creepy pasta, it's very popular. It was very popular, and the catchphrase was everywhere, right? So the title is 내 다리 내놔, which literally means "give me my leg." So the story starts off with a poor family, mom and her son, and the son falls ill. The son is dying. So the mom asks for help, you know. So the mom goes to doctors, in the village, but they're all not willing to help her because she has no money. So a Tosa, that Taoist master, hears about her problem, issue. So he tells her that I know a way to cure your son, and it is to go to a cemetery, dig up a grave, cut off a leg, right, of a corpse that had been buried about 3 days, and make a stew out of it and feed your son. That was the cure. A dead man's leg stew. So the mom was desperate. So she's like, okay. And she decided to go in the early hours because she shouldn't be spotted, right? If you're spotted digging up a grave, you are imprisoned. So in the early hours, she goes to a cemetery and she successfully dug up a grave, and she found this fresh corpse. Weird, fresh corpse. Anyway, she cuts off the right leg of the corpse. She cuts it off, the right leg, successfully. As soon as she cut off the leg and was about to head home, the corpse stood up and started to chase her. And the corpse shouted, "Give me my leg, 내 다리 누나, give me my leg." And it started to chase her with one leg. It was hopping toward her. So the mom freaked out and ran for her life. She ran to the house and she got into the house and she locked the door. Oh, and I forgot, the Taoist master, the Tosa, told her not to look back, right, after cutting the leg off. And she successfully didn't look back. She went back home with the leg, and the corpse followed her. So the corpse was outside the door, and the corpse was banging on the door. "Give me my leg, give me my leg." So the mom was trembling, but she successfully put the leg into the pot and started to boil it. And as soon as the water boiled, the corpse outside screeched in pain and seemed to die down. And the mother also fainted on the spot. Now, the next morning, the mom woke up and the stew was ready. So she took the stew and fed it to her son. And the son was completely healed. But from then on, the son started to limp on his right leg. Yep, that is the story that I know. Creepy, cannibalism, weird. Let's move on. Let's read. Let's talk about something brighter. All right, back to lighthearted folk tales. This is a really popular one in Korea, and I really enjoyed reading it when I was a child too. The title of this folk tale is 곶감과 호랑이, which translates to the dry persimmon and the tiger. So that is a fruit popular in Korea. It tastes really sweet and nice. The characters are mom, baby, and tiger. So the story starts off with in the deep mountains, there was a mom and a baby in an old house, in an old hut. And the mountains were famous for having this huge tiger that was roaming around. So the tiger was hungry and he decided to hunt for food. And he was walking around and he sees this little hut. So he's like, humans for today. I'll eat people for today. So the tiger goes to the hut, and as soon as he reaches the hut, he hears a baby inside the house crying. So the tiger's annoyed, right? I don't want to hear this baby cry. Let's go in and eat it quickly. And as he was about to jump into the door, he heard the baby's mom say things like, "You need to stop crying, you need to stop crying," or something scary will come to attack us, right? And the mom was like, "Look, a fox." But the baby did not stop to cry, right? And the tiger's like, the mother said if you don't stop crying, something scary will come. Yet the baby didn't stop crying. So that must mean the baby is not afraid of a fox, right? So the tiger's like, this baby must be a brave one. Oh well, I'll just eat it anyways. Now, the mom was like, look, the famous tiger from the mountains has come to eat us. But the baby did not stop crying. Now the tiger's like, it heard of my name, yet it's not stopping to cry. What? Is this baby not afraid of me? So the tiger was like, this baby must be really strong or something. How is he not scared of me? Now this time, the mom's like, look, a dried persimmon. And the baby stops in an instant, just like that. So now the tiger's like, this baby did not cry after hearing fox and tiger, but cried after hearing the dried persimmon. So this dried persimmon must be something really powerful, something really scary. So now the tiger gets scared and he looks around to see if there's something lurking. He's looking if there is a dried persimmon around, and he runs away for his life. Yep, that is the tale. Cute, funny. Let's move on. Alright, this is also a very popular folk tale in Korea. The title is 의좋은 형제, which means the good brothers. And there is the elder brother and the younger brother. Now, a long, long time ago, there lived two brothers who were really in good terms. They were really looking out for each other, and they really cared for each other. The elder brother already had a family, and the younger brother just got married. So the elder brother was like, my younger brother just started out building his own family, so to say. So he needs my support, he needs my help. So the elder brother decides to give him a sack of rice. But he knew that if he offered him a sack of rice, the younger brother would reject it out of kindness, saying that, oh, I don't need it, you should eat it. So the elder brother decides to be sneaky about it. In the early hours, he took a sack of rice and secretly put the sack of rice in the younger brother's new home. The next morning, the elder brother goes to the storage to see his rice, but he sees the same number of rice that he had before. So he was like, that's weird. I gave my brother a sack of rice. How come I have the same number of rice here? So he's like, okay, that's weird, but I'm going to do it again. So nighttime came, and early hours, he took another sack and put it on his brother's house secretly. The next morning, the same thing. He counted his rice, and they were the same number. So the elder brother was like, that is so weird. How come I'm not missing a sack of rice? So this time, he decides to go a little bit later on. So it was about, 3, 4 a.m. He carries a sack of rice, and he goes to his younger brother's house, but then he bumps into a man also carrying a sack of rice, and it was his younger brother. And so they fall to the ground, and they see each other, and they laugh out loud. So the elder brother was like, so you were the one putting a sack of rice in my storage. And the younger brother was also like, you were the one putting a sack of rice in my storage. So the elder brother was like, why are you putting a sack of rice in my house? I am putting a sack of rice in your house because you've just started out a family, so I thought you would need more, support. And the younger brother was like, well, I thought of the same thing. I wanted to help you because you have a bigger family than mine. You have kids. So I figured you would need more rice than me. So yeah, it was a happy ending. I believe there's a village dedicated to these brothers. There's like a monument about these. So I guess it's based off a real story. I don't know. Let's move on. Now we are at the final folk tale, and this one is also very, very popular. The title is 선녀와 나무꾼, the fairy and the woodcutter. And the characters are man, deer, fairy, and mom. I'll try to summarize it off the top of my head. I'll get many details wrong. But here goes nothing. So, back in the day, there was a man. He was about 30 years old. And in those days, that was way over marriage age, so to speak, right? Man would marry much earlier than that. Anyways, this 30-year-old man was walking in the woods and he sees a deer coming toward him. Now, the deer was being hunted by hunters. So the deer tells the man, please, if you save me, if you let me hide somewhere, I will compensate it, you know? So the man's like, out of a kind heart, hides the deer, and the hunters fails to catch the deer. So now the deer was like, okay, so what do you want? And the man said, I'm 30, yet I don't have my own family. So the deer's like, I see, you want someone to marry. Well, I know this place. I believe it's a pond. I know this pond where the fairies would come down at a specific time to take a bath. I will show you where this pond is, and I'm gonna tell you a way to marry one of these fairies. The deer was like, these fairies come down to earth with a specific dress, and this dress has wings in it. So without that dress, the fairies can't fly. So the deer tells the man to steal one of the dresses so that one of the fairies can't go up to the skies. So the man does that. He goes to the pond where the deer told him about, and he sees fairies come down, take off their clothes, and take a bath. So he snuck up to one of the dresses, takes it, and hides it. So all the fairies go back to their dresses, they get dressed, and they go up. But one fairy couldn't go up, right? Because she missed her dress. So she's like worried and she panics, right? Oh, what should I do? I don't know anyone here. So the man appears like a hero and says, well, I can, provide for you as long as you promise to be my wife. So the fairy, having no choice, says, okay. So they get married. Now, there was a catch that I didn't mention. The deer said after marrying one of the fairies, never ever tell her about the dress unless you have 3 children. So if you have 3 children, then you can tell the fairy the truth, about you stealing the dress. But until then, do not ever talk about it. Anyways, so they're married, the man and the fairy. Now they have 2 children. And the man decided it was okay to tell the fairy about the dress that he stole, right? I guess he wanted to come off clean. He had this conscience, I guess, right? Get some dirt off his shoulder. So he tells the fairy what exactly had happened on that day. He's like, I was there and I was mesmerized by your beauty and I hid your dress and the dress is right here. Now, the fairy was content with her life until that point, but after seeing the dress, she suddenly wanted to go back to heavens, like desperately. So she put on the dress, she took the children, one child on her left, one child on her right, and she went up to the skies. So the man was like, oh no, don't go. But the fairy was like, I'm sorry, but I really miss my, people in the heavens, so I gotta go. So I guess that's why the deer said, don't tell her until you have 3 children, because then you'll have no more arms to carry a child. Anyways, so the fairy went up to the heavens with the 2 children. So now the man was alone again. So he decides to ask the deer for help one more time. So he goes to the woods and finds the same deer. So the deer listens to his story and he's like, okay, I can help you one more time. Remember the pond that we talked about? Now, the fairies don't wear the dresses to come down. They use a bucket to come down because of the incident. The fairy couldn't go back up. So now they use a bucket. So if you cling on to that bucket, you will be able to reach the heavens. So the man goes, okay. And he goes to the pond. The man sees the bucket, and the fairies were done taking a bath. So they all went up to the bucket, and the man clung to the bucket, and they go up together to the skies, to the heavens. So he met the god in the skies, and the god wasn't happy to see a man in the heavens, right? So the god gave him a lot of trials, and he's like, if you successfully pass these trials, I will let you meet your wife and children. So I forgot what the trials were, but the man triumphantly completes all of them. So the god was like, okay, I'll let you meet your children and your wife. So in the heavens, the family reunites and they live happily ever after. Or so we thought. But no. After some days, the man started to miss his mom, He didn't have a chance to say goodbye, right? So he was looking sad. So his fairy wife was like, hey husband, hey hubby, what's up? And he told her, I miss my mom, I'm worried my mom would be outside looking for me. So the fairy, knowing how that feels, offers him a horse, a flying horse, I guess a unicorn, right? A flying horse. And she says, okay, why don't you go visit your mom and tell her what had happened, and say your last goodbye. And she says, remember, you should never ever get off the horse, or this horse will come flying back up without you on its back. So he's like, okay, I promise not to get off the horse. So he gets on the horse, the flying horse, and he goes back to Earth. And he approaches his house and he sees his mother outside in the yard. And the mother saw her son and she starts to cry and, son, you're finally back. And they, say hello and try to catch up. And the mom was like, I was out here every day, every night, to see if you were ever gonna come back, right? And that was really sad when I was reading, when I was young. And so the man was like, oh, I'm really sorry, mom, for not letting you know. But, this is my story, and now I'm living in the heavens with my family. So the mom was like, okay, I will let you go, but please let me at least feed you something. So she grabs a porridge and gives it to her son. Now the son tries to eat the porridge and he accidentally spills it on the horse. Now the horse gets surprised. Something hot has fell on his back, right? So the horse roars up and the man fell off the horse. So the horse went back up to the skies. And now the man had no way to return to the heavens. Heartbreaking, yeah. And there is a legend that says because the man kept on looking to the sky and kept on crying, he turned into a rooster. Like, that is the origin of a rooster and why roosters keep crying, looking up to the sky. Yep, that was the tale. Heartbreaking. Okay, so anyways, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed the tales. I know my summaries were not very clear and I got many things mixed up. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. And if there's anything you want to know about, something to do with Korea, or maybe not, something interesting, let me know in the comments section below. And yep, I hope to see you again. Bye bye.